Okay, so 11 months out from the debut of the Hololive English Advent Wave, we've got the flip side over here. This is the Justice crew. They launched about 2 weeks ago at time of recording, and I just want to talk about them for a bit. Where they've been, where they're at, and maybe where they're headed as well. Let's just do it. No preamble. Let's start with lore. Right, so Justice has a pretty simple pitch. Their predecessors' Advent were a bunch of cosmic criminal escapees, and Justice seems to be the long arm of the law catching up with them so these dangerous fugitives can finally be brought to swift, prison, most likely. Tonally, they seem to be going for a direct flip of a wave like Holo X. Instead of a supervillain team that would likely struggle to shoplift a Red Bull, let alone take over the world, Justice is a team of lawkeepers who are going to end up being friends with the people they're supposed to be capturing while engaging in equally dubious behaviour. It's the sort of wink-nudge self-awareness that Hololive have been doing for a while, and I can only speak for myself in saying that, I don't know, I still really enjoy it. They're good at picking lore concepts that are really simple and direct, but equally kind of malleable and open to interpretation and subversion. Justice has been a prime example on that front, with a lot of the marketing from the company presenting the morally upstanding lawkeepers concept with an ostensibly straight face, despite the fact that they know exactly what's going to happen. The trick here is that the law feels less like strict regimented roles that the higher-ups are enforcing, and more like expectations being set up like bowling pins, lined up for the girls to just completely smash over post-debut. You can pretty much tell that was the intention from material like the pre-release Incident Report comics by Keen Biscuit. They feature various escapades from the gang that took place while they were in Japan together, paired with incongruous titles like Clumsiness is Justice or Melon Soda is Justice. It's a pretty thick helping of sarcasm for sure, but also, it feels good-natured and silly rather than just being smug irony posting. Yes, these are all part of Hololive's bag of favourite tricks. They've pulled these ones out a good number of times and it plays into their identity as a brand, but until some of the competition either catch up or present an equally interesting alternative, I'm not about to complain. Their approach makes the waves feel like all the members fit together cohesively on the creative front without being overly micromanaged or boxed in. Of course, having good lore isn't strictly essential, but the lore of a generation, at least in my experience, can often be indicative of the level of thought and care being put into the production process overall. Not always, but it can give away more than you might think. Controversial opinion, potentially incoming, wee woo, but look, that was why I was pretty positive on Niji Sanji's Denouth from earlier this year, whose lore demonstrates a lot more care, good humour and self-awareness than a lot of people have given them credit for. Not perfect, you understand, but look, that's a whole other can of worms that I will have to painstakingly untangle at some other time, preferably after half a bottle of fucking scotch. Anyway, let's get on to the actual Justice talents. Okay, so first cab off the rank is Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame. Yeah, Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame. There's got to be a name of a hedgehog somewhere. Anyway, Elizabeth over here is the Scarlet Queen, sort of the leading figure in the Justice team. She does the sword or whatever and has a flame in her heart burning with the passion for justice, etc, etc. First impressions from most folks seem to be that she's really good at voice acting and singing, and yeah, she's cracked. I have no idea how Cover keep finding new folks that are this talented and this experienced. Liz over here speaks with more polish than plenty of professional newscasters I've heard. She's like a live audiobook. Her singing is also super high quality. She's got charisma, she's got range, and a decent amount of versatility.
Wow, Kiwawa, your hair is like so cool.
We think so? Oh, so do I.
Damn.
Oh yeah, and as you might have heard, she's from the Blimey Governor, Chips and Gravy, Bangers and Chimney Sweep, God Bless Your Mom UK. With the references to Bruce Forsyth, the BBC test card, and Chip Buddies, seems kinda hard for her debut to have been more British, short of ending on a Sleaford Mod song. bro, don't get me started on the cheeky chicken. She was the first debut up and didn't go for anything too out of the ordinary. It was slides and songs, all traditional style. But with the aforementioned vocal talents here, Lizzie could have read out random passages from the Magna Carta and still would have had the audience eating out of the palm of her hand. Although, just quietly, I think 3 songs might have been pushing it a little. 2 songs? Yeah, go for it. 3 songs? Yeah, perhaps getting a little too self-indulgent there, especially when you have to end on a hard cut for time reasons. And I suppose while I'm being a bit nitpicky, some of the covers during debut did start to wander into that X Factor finale territory of just unnecessary oversinging. Only a skosh, but still felt like it was worth a mention. Based on what we've been getting post-debut, it seems like Lizzie is mostly going for that sort of stuff just to stretch her vocal cords and have a bit of fun playing around with the covers, and that definitely makes for some fun karaoke. A bit of campy oversinging is okay for more light-hearted songs, but if she starts to tackle any more serious covers or originals that way, she does run the risk of just butchering the material. Not every vocal performance needs to be Ariana Grande. Some of them are more like Billie Eilish. Just saying. On the topic of singing actually, while I am a big music guy at heart, I don't want to go too deep on the new songs here, mainly because they're all just pretty much fine and don't give me much to say about them. Gigi had a really cool Hitomania video with a bunch of nifty mixed media animation, but that aside, it was pretty much just the usual standard you expect from debut songs. Like a dairy milk, mate. You enjoy it, but it's not spectacular. See, there you go, there's a British reference. There's a bit of Ramesh Ranganathan. I'm cultured, alright? I've seen some comparisons folks have been making between Ms. Bloodflame and one Multiverse Monarch, which, in my view, are just as accurate as they are complementary. If you like Amelie's very whiplash blend of charismatic vocal chameleon and bumbling scuff queen antics and somehow haven't had a run-in with Liz previously, definitely give her a go. She seems to be a fairly casual gamer, so do keep the expectations in check. She's perfectly pleasant on that front, but the focus is on more important things. Like the fact that she's British, she's funny, she's super charismatic, she's good at impressions, and her tits are literally on fire. What else do you need? I feel like I'm trying to describe the appeal of ice cream right now. She's just bloody ass, mate, you know what I mean? Also, in case Liz somehow sees this video, I'll just throw this idea out there, right? Elizabeth Rose Blackadder, Hololive improv sketch comedy. We already have the precedent. That Vesper and Crony stream was absolutely primo content, and that was practically an early Monty Python sketch. I'm just saying, think about it. You girls are easy funny enough to do it, and you know it. Next up is Gigi. She's the chaser for justice, the runner who has to tail and potentially apprehend their targets. Based on the name and design, a gremlin-style character was not much of a surprise, but, well, pretty much everything else was. She kicked off the debut with a visually stunning and surprisingly esoteric lore video that set up a much more complicated character than I was initially expecting. If I understand the plot correctly, and that's a pretty big if, Gigi is a lonely young girl who breaks something precious and then finds joy in not only fixing it, but giving it a new lick of paint and somewhat making it her own. That process of creation fills the hole in her heart, and so it becomes an obsession that quickly consumes her and threatens to tear her world apart until she is left shattered once again. This time, however, she is left to pick up the pieces with the help of friends, a second chance to fill the void in her heart and fix what's broken. This is not me getting too wanky, this is the simplest explanation I could give. These artist types and their goddamn metaphors about the things you love turning against you. Needless to say, it's a strikingly bold and incredibly dark backstory for a VTuber character, a gremlin character no less, who is generally expected to be just a lightweight mischief maker and comic relief. Her debut was up second, starting out with a quick rundown of the usual information before transitioning to a stream that was mostly focused on the interactive elements for chat. The first of these was a choose-your-own-adventure story about Gigi attempting to catch a criminal, with chat selecting the actions and a random dice roll deciding if the actions were successful, TTRPG style. I've seen a little bit of pushback on this concept, with some people calling it a gimmick, and I could not disagree more strongly. Gigi makes it pretty clear that whatever chat chooses will become part of the permanent lore of the character. Taking that into account, it's interesting to see the storytelling at play here. Each of the options is a little binary choice, in several cases between keeping Gigi on task, making sure she remembers things and pays attention, or her just failing to do that, either on purpose or by accident. Of course, it's a great platform for jokes and just messing around with audience expectations, but it's only when you really zoom out that you can realise what's going on under the hood here. This is, in essence, an ADHD simulation. The choices that Gigi has to make aren't about what items to use or whether she should attack an enemy or any other D&D tropes. The choices are chat trying to help her either stay focused and not get distracted, or just go for it and mess around. It was really creative, fun, and deceptively clever character building as well. I've not been able to get that overlap between the gremlin archetype and the common symptoms of ADHD out of my head. It's legit kind of a genius observation. Gigi also just ran the thing really smoothly. I don't know, I can't say enough nice things about this little segment. It was excellent. After that section, she had more chat integrated stuff with a fun little clone of Crossy Road, or I guess Frogger for all you geezers out there. Bit more lightweight, but it was still fun. In terms of similar contemporaries, I've heard Doki Bird's name come up, and I think fans of hers will feel pretty at home with Gigi. Vocal cadence is similar, of course, and both of them approach gameplay commentary with a comparable mix of pseudo-observational comedy and dry sarcasm.
If only people did not drive in the middle of the road, okay? You have your own lane. It makes no sense. Literally follow the traffic rules. Look who's talking. What?
Gigi's point of distinction, of course, is her willingness to lean into her mischievous streak, and that's been on full display in the weeks of streams post-debut. Don't let the weirdo, artsy stuff like the cover from earlier put you off too much. Gigi is still checking all the boxes of a traditional gremlin character, and if that's all you're after, you'll definitely get your fix. Taken as a whole, I've been super impressed with the self-appointed fister over here, and more than that, I've got the impression that she still has a fair few cards up her sleeve. I really hope that her more surreal, strange, and creative ideas are not just going to be one and done with for debut, because I think there's definitely room in Hololive for a more eccentric, artsy type. I even have a few more theories about some of the other nuances of this character, including an explanation of that jar, by the way, but I'm going to lay low with those until I get some more solid confirmation. In the meanwhile, I'll just leave this clip here.
Oh, anyways, going back to my childhood, I was told to never be myself, so I'm not sure who myself is. You have any advice for that?
Do you own a mirror?
No.
Okay, I can't help you.
Let's get over to the green German lady, Cecilia. The reason she's got one of those windy propeller caps implanted into her skull is that she's the team's automaton, their butler and servant, hypothetically. In a world where she can actually be bothered to do anything useful around here, like make a goddamn cup of coffee, Cece, it's not that hard. Green Lady's debut was interesting. The first two girls were very on point and polished for the most part, whereas Cecilia felt a lot more loose and sort of freewheeling. There was a very unique contrast between the narrative aspect, or the scene changes, the small details, and how many moving parts the debut had, merged with Cecilia's delivery being kind of loose, scuffed, and seemingly improvised to make it all appear like she was just making everything up on the fly. I didn't fully get it at first, I'll admit. And then we got towards the end and everything just clicked. Clicked to the point that I could then look back over the other parts of the debut and notice a bunch of cool things I'd previously missed. Outline was pretty typical, with slides and songs and showing the model and a simple interactive section, but the presentation and details really mixed things up. Instead of singing a cover, we got a violin cover. She played the lore video about living for thousands of years yet feeling stuck in the same place and time at the end of the stream to cast a darker shadow over the messing around that happened before. She made chat like a physical block that seems to walk around with her through each of the obscure scene changes. That stuff was all pretty cool for sure, but I think the big appeal for Cecilia was her personality and the fun clash between her casual, slightly awkward, scatterbrained delivery and her skillful juggling of so many set pieces, jokes and transitions without ever missing a beat. And she's even managed to pull out some of these more elaborate gags post-debut, like in her music stream where she has a goof about playing copyrighted music that feels just complicated enough that she couldn't have just completely pulled it together on the spot, but equally doesn't feel like something she scripted ahead of time.
No, please, no, it was my idea. It was my idea. I came up with it.
Guys, scatter.
And she's so nonchalant about it that the actual cleverness of what she's pulling off might skate right past you unless you take a second and go, hang on. How did she actually do that? Cecilia seems to have a very tight understanding of the medium she's working in, honestly more so than a lot of mainstream livers I've seen. It really feels like her style would only really work as a VTuber specifically, and if you have an eye for those details, she's going to be a new favourite. Green Lady also seems to be something of a futzer. Truly devastating news for anyone who likes Let's Plays with any degree of focus or professionalism, but a cause for celebration for all the old Germa fans who want to watch someone get horrendously off track playing dress-ups with random corpses in Skyrim. Lucky for me, I'm in the second camp, and I've found Cecilia to be legitimately just laugh out loud hilarious. To make comparisons to the field, honestly, I'm kind of coming up short. Closest I could say is a mixture between Kiara and some of Aya Amare's weirder material, but Cece is kind of a mother of her own style here. I can't think of anyone that does what she does in quite this way. I would also be remiss not to mention that her team-ups with Gigi so far have been absolutely amazing as well. Only just starting out and they're already as thick as thieves, bantering like they've been doing this forever and complementing each other's energy. You can really tell they're going to be a killer duo. Top marks again for Miss Emma Green in the time I've been making this video. I think I might have actually come around to calling her debut stream one of the best Hololive debuts ever. I think it's actually a masterclass. Go watch it again. I think you'll see what I mean. Rounding things out, of course, is Raura. God, that's so hard to say with an Aussie accent. She appears to be in charge of intel gathering and the resident sketch artist of the group, owing to her cool eyes that glow in the dark. Oh yeah, and she has a massive gambling addiction, one so crippling to her mental health that she has started to hallucinate that her audience members resemble the little blue collectible creature that she is so obsessed with. She also rounds out our additions to Holo EU with the very obvious Italian accent, and Italian everything else as well.
I love fries on pizza! Woo!
Rao's debut was pretty nice. Nothing too wild or crazy, the usual slides plus the press conference for a cute framing device, a quick drawing section for fans to follow along with, nothing too revolutionary but did what it needed to. I'm going to treat her a little differently from the rest of her gen mates because I think her content has different goals. For someone whose big focus is probably going to be art streams, you really don't need to go too big or loud or conceptually ambitious. Your job is to be cozy and easy to chill with, and as Big Pink got through the nerves towards the end, I think you could see a bit more of that starting to shine through. There was a bit of a stumble in that it seemed like she ran out of material towards the end of her debut, as she got through the main content a bit too quick, made those last few minutes feel a little bit awkward for me, but I could totally see some people really enjoying that it was a moment where she was able to just go off script and have a direct personal yap with chat for a bit. And that's going to be pretty important going forward because part and parcel with being an art streamer is not just knowing your way around a pen, but also a good chin wag. If the audience is going to be spending 4 hours watching you draw, you better have at least a few things to say during that time to keep their ears occupied. And like I said earlier, there is a bit of a premium on these types of streamers being kind of cozy and chill, which means you have a slight tightrope walk in terms of being easygoing and relaxing while also being interesting enough that people don't just completely switch off. It's not quite rocket surgery, but there is a bit of a trick to it. It requires a specific kind of charisma, and as we get into her solo streams, I think I can say that Rao definitely hits the mark. She's genuine, she's sweet, she's bubbly and bouncy, but not too overbearing. She also has a pretty distinct vocal tone, a little scratchy, but also very earnest and homely. I mean, the fact that she was getting the mama treatment within the first week is practically game set match in that respect. That's a chat that's so comfy they're practically slouched in the beanbag with a cup of hot cocoa. Any fans of Toa, and of course the late great Sana, should be taking note. I think there's a lot of crossover here that you're really going to get behind. But now all of that's out the way, what's the conclusion? Well, Justice are pretty cool. Big shock. If you like what Hololive do on any level, you'll probably like at least one of these girls, if not all of them. In part, this wave felt to me a little more consolidating than Advent. With folks like the twins and Shiori particularly, Advent felt like it was trying to expand into new territory and take a swing at different formats and styles, whereas Justice feels a little more safe and familiar. A bit of a double down on what they know the fans already like. Maybe there's a degree of disappointment in that, but let's not discount Justice from shaking things up just yet. Elizabeth has already been making it pretty clear she wants to hang out with a lot of the Holostars lads, which would be a genuinely great change of pace, and I still think that the other girls, Gigi and Cecilia most especially, have a lot more tricks up their sleeves than we've seen. Of course, I always welcome the bigger agencies taking risks and trying to expand the medium into new creative areas. If any of the Justice girls see this video somehow on a lonely night of ego surfing, my biggest piece of advice would be take a swing at that weird idea you have that you're pretty sure no one would watch. Don't die wondering. Mainstream VTuber audiences are way more receptive to off-the-wall content than you might expect. I will always be kind of disappointed that Narissa never went through with her VTuber pregnancy idea. It would have been so outrageous and so hilariously deranged that it would have written itself into the history books as an instant classic, and it still makes me a little bit sad that she didn't have the guts to give it a crack. Never forget that one of Hololive's most enduring skits revolved around one of the girls inserting a dragon tail into her. Even the spectacular failures can give you a brand new perspective on VTubing that you didn't know you had. It's a rule for everyone, really. Don't let your weird ideas die on the vine. Give them life, and they will give you probably a channel strike for inappropriate content. But look, it's the thought that counts. Justice seems cool. Go watch him. I will appear next when you least expect it, aka when work stops kicking my ass. Thanks for watching.